Looks like you're doing pretty well, although I wouldn't have done that. Yeah, there you go.
I tried to live on the edge.
Yep.
I almost had it. No, I'll get you one day. Hey, what's going on, everybody? From Digital Doc Games, I am Digital Doc, and you are watching Game Changers. It's the show where we play a game with the people changing the game. Today, we are joined by Noah Falstein. He's a professional game developer since 1980 with many hit title credits such as Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. He was one of the first employees at LucasArts and Dreamworks Interactive, where he worked alongside the minds of Steven Spielberg and George Lucas, and more recently has been focusing on the blending of neuroscience and games. Today, though, he's here to play Tricky Towers with me, a frantic physics-based tower building game. Noah Falstein, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
How are you feeling before we get into this one?
Oh, really good. Looking forward to this. You picked a fun one for me. This is the kind of game I like. And my friend Ron Gilbert, who did the Monkey Island games, released a casual game called, I think it was the Big Castle, that was a very similar physics tower building game, just single player. And it did okay, but didn't really take off. So, I'm curious to see how this one works. And, I've only had a small taste of tried one or two levels and looking forward to getting deeper into it.
All right, well, I can already see your game design mind at work here. So let's go ahead and dive in. You ready to roll?
Absolutely, go for it.
Noah, you've been making games for just about 4 decades. As someone who knows how the sausage is made, do you feel like you experience games differently than the average consumer?
Oh, yeah, interesting question. And yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I also, spent time at Lucasfilm and DreamWorks with a lot of movie people. And I learned something, from them, that when you're in something professionally, you end up having a totally different look at it. And particularly Lucasfilm and, talking with and working with a lot of the ILM guys, it made it impossible for me to, that looks good. made it impossible for me to look at special effects in movies without thinking, oh yeah, that was a green screen effect, and oh, here they're using a matte painting, and it kind of ruins you for just sitting back and enjoying it, unless it's like really, really good. And it's the same thing for games, that my brain is always looking at, oh, how did they implement that, or I would have done this differently. But then you get a game that is just so brilliant that you just lose yourself in it. And I'm thinking like Portal was one that absolutely was one of my all-time favorites. It was just so beautifully done on every level that it was very easy to kind of stay out of my own head that way.
And some of your first games that you fell in love with were Colossal Caverns and some of the older Star Trek games. Does that classic era reign supreme in your mind over some of the other generations of games, or is there another one that you think can hold the candle to it?
Whoa, you got me.
This might be my level.
Looks like you're doing pretty well, although I wouldn't have done that.
No. I tried to live on the edge. Yep. I almost had it. No, I'll get you one day.
I think I'm not one of those people. Actually, I should say I'm a Gilbert and Sullivan fan, and there's a line in The Mikado about the idiot who praises with enthusiastic tone every century but this and every country but its own. And I try not to be that idiot and talk about, today's games are terrible. The classic games were the only good ones. And, I think each era had its own pleasures and limitations. And, with a lot of those really early games in the earliest era of game development, it was just amazing to get something to run at all sometimes, and particularly the Atari VCS, which was the first console I developed for. There are people writing books about it even today, about just how insanely difficult it was to make anything work on it. It was so limited. But things have changed radically now, and I love the current era for its own reasons. So yeah, I think I'm always marveling. Sometimes I look at modern games and use that lens of what I did many years ago, and it's it just makes me appreciate more and more how amazing our continuing changing technology is.
Yeah. Oh, just fell. So I am noticing it looks like we're getting these power-ups. This might be what these magic powers that they hinted to. So okay. I'm gonna. Yeah. See. Okay. So I had some zap ability, and that kind of zapped some of my pieces away if I had a bad draw.
I see.
Man, you're so close.
Oh, well, maybe not.
Capitalize. I got some sticky goo here. All right. Okay. I think we got to use these magic abilities.
God,
did you get? You just got it.
I was
right there. I was right there.
Well, and as you see, I was falling over, but I.
Yeah, right. Just a buzzer shot right there. So Noah, you got to work with George Lucas and Steven Spielberg when you first started working at Lucasfilm right after Return of the Jedi came out, and again worked with Spielberg at DreamWorks Interactive. Do you recall your first time meeting either of these film giants?
Yeah. So with George, he was, first time I saw him in person was at a company meeting just, I think, a few weeks after I started. And then a few weeks after that, I was at, I'm just going to let some of these guys go. I was at a local mall, and I saw him again just at the mall, and he looked up at me and waved at me. And I waved back, and I thought, oh, damn, how cool. George Lucas knows me.
Yeah.
And then I realized I was wearing a Lucasfilm t-shirt that they had given me, and I'm sure that was it, because he didn't, look like he was exactly recognizing me. And he's a very private guy, very introverted. So, he doesn't normally, I found out later, doesn't normally socialize with people except his closest friends at the company. But that was a really fun sense that, well, he seems to know who I am.
I think we should pretend that he knew who you were, even if the shirt might have been a giveaway.
Well, it was an unwritten rule in the company that at the company events, you acted as if he wasn't there. If he came up and talked to you, that was great. But otherwise, you just said nothing to him. And he was dating Linda Ronstadt at the time. For the younger viewers, she was a big music star at the time. And sometimes you'd see the two of them sitting together at one of the company parties, looking like the least popular kids that nobody wanted to talk to, and yet that was what they wanted. They wanted to keep it totally quiet.
Do you think, is there anything watching any of Spielberg's or Lucas's movies that you think their time in game development or being peripherally involved with it bled into their movies?
You are definitely, I don't know how much it's your gameplay skills improving or your ability to distract me, but either way, it's working for you.
I just got to keep you talking. I feel like I'm finally starting to understand this physics system a little bit.
Yeah, and I think you're way ahead of me.
I don't know, but I think we're pretty close here, actually.
Well, I'm going to try a different strategy.
Well, just to make sure you don't get too far ahead and make sure I can ask another question here. Oh man, if I could even ask it. So I want to hit you with a hypothetical for a second.
Okay.
All right. So imagine you're at a dinner party with some game developer buddies, and everyone's passing around a laptop and looking up on YouTube their most favorite hype moments from games, whether it's a hype game release trailer or anything
Sure.
related. Someone hands you the laptop. What is it that you would type into YouTube to search for?
Well, that's probably easy for me in that when Will Wright at the Game Developers Conference many years ago announced Spore, the next game that he had coming out.
Right.
It was just a pièce de résistance. You know, his delivery on what the game was going to be and just how amazing it was. It blew us all away, and there was a line around the whole Moscone Center waiting to get in, and a whole bunch of other famous game designers were there, and it looked like it was going to be the best game ever in every single way.
Right.
And as I was walking out, I remember seeing Warren Spector, who is well known for his work on what was the Mickey Mouse game?
Yeah, Epic Mickey.
Epic Mickey, and a bunch of stuff earlier than that. And I looked at him, and he looked at me, and we just shook our heads. And he said something along the lines of, "I think I might as well just go home and give up now. There's just no point to making any more games."
So Noah, your initial Lucasfilm studio was in Skywalker Ranch in California. In fact, you used to sneak the ranch's then top secret address, 5858, into the games that you were making. Were there any other trade secrets that you stumbled upon at the ranch that you maybe let slip or came close to slipping, or maybe can let slip now?
Boy, that's a really interesting question. We certainly were very inspired by it, and the place that we were working, it was by far the most amazing place I can imagine. And in fact, another quick anecdote that I went to Google years later, and they took all the new employees on this bus trip around the campus, and partway through the trip, the person sitting next to me on the bus just turned to me bubbling with excitement and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Can you imagine working in a cooler setting than this?" And I just smiled and said, "Well, I can imagine it." And Skywalker Ranch, I mean, there are things about Google and their campus in terms of size and, amenities and everything that are just, unparalleled in my experience, but not in terms of kind of quality and aesthetics. George built the ranch. Oh, darn. No.
You gave me a second chance there, because I have not been performing well.
There are things about the ranch that were just so beautiful. It was designed with a storyboard. George designed it almost like a movie set, and it was just an amazing place to work. I don't think that there were any great secrets. Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess one of the things is that, I've seen Big Bang Theory did a sneaking onto the ranch thing. There was a movie about some fans sneaking onto the ranch. And it is interesting. I mean, I think I know how, if I wanted to sneak on, how I would try it, but I also know how good their security is. So I guess that would be the closest to a company secret. And even today, I know I can't really pass that on, because I respect too much their need for privacy and safety, for that matter.
So in the beginning of 2021, Bethesda and Lucasfilm announced that they'll be working on a new Indiana Jones game. Of course, you
Yep.
personally worked on an Indiana Jones Fate of Atlantis that was in 2009, LucasArts' most successful adventure title, won multiple awards, and is deemed by IGN as a classic. What's one piece of advice that you would give the developers over at Bethesda to help them create the next authentic indie experience?
Oh, that's an interesting question. And I do have contacts at the Lucasfilm within Disney who are working with them. So I've actually literally passed some of this on already. But I would say the thing that worked for us, both with the Last Crusade game we did and Fate of Atlantis, is to remember how Indiana Jones is such a multifaceted character. He's a professor, he's a romancer and a ladies' man, in today's world to a disturbing extent, perhaps.
I got to rewatch those movies and see how it holds up.
Oh, yeah. Well, and in fact, if you want to see where things could have gone really badly, the script that was originally written by Chris Columbus for what the third movie that they rejected was rightly so. I mean, it was incredibly misogynist. Anyway, but I would say he's also, he's a puzzle solver, but he's a man of action, and his whips and his gun, all of that are part of him. And really, people I think are excited about different aspects of that. So it was one of the things that was my biggest contribution to both of those games, I think, was to make them multifaceted and have multiple pathways and ways to play. And it was by far the most quoted feature in the reviews that we got of what people liked about Fate of Atlantis in particular. So I would recommend that they keep that in mind and not get too caught up, say, in just the action and shooting and whipping, and forget that he has other aspects to his personality.
So obviously you've such a deep knowledge of the industry and really a love and a passion for it, I think, is obvious. What was the tipping point for you, though, to sort of take that pivot and move from a career in traditional game development to the more uncharted territories of games for health and serious games?
Well, one of the things that I really love about the games industry in general, and has absolutely been true about my career, is that it's constantly reinventing itself. Games today are very different in many ways. There are similarities to, going all the way back to the earliest games. I mean, here we are playing essentially a Tetris variant, and Tetris came out in the 80s. But I love the way that it reinvents itself, and I love variety. And your distraction skills are working.
Don't worry, I'm way behind you.
And I have gone from, working in big companies and, doing what were at the time, even before they called it the equivalent of AAA games, to doing indie games, to, being a freelancer, and now doing games for health, doing VR. And I'm, maybe easily distracted, and it's really great having a career in this field that is constantly reinventing itself, so I can keep doing that. And Games for Health is just the latest iteration of that for me, but perhaps in many ways one of the most satisfying.
Take that.
Magic. I just wish I knew.
Okay, you supersized me.
There we go. That's
I see how it is. That might have been a good thing for me, though. Kind of needed that. Maybe. No, it balanced.
Maybe not.
But yeah, you were saying it keeps you interested.
Absolutely. And it's I think, just as a personal thing, it's a good way to sort of keep your own mind fresh and keep excited about stuff. Okay, come on,
get across up. Down to the wire. Not really. I was drilling behind there. Well done. The house looks good.
Thank you.
Talia, no pun intended with the tipping point there that I started.
No. Hey, one of my favorite game credits is from Monkey Island 2, which was Goofy Pun Consultant. So you can't go wrong with puns as far as I'm concerned.
Yes, I agree. Noah, we did it. We've mastered the Tricky Towers challenge. How you feeling?
Good, thanks. That was a lot of fun, and this is a great format.
I very much enjoyed playing a game with you. Please let us know what you have going on right now, where people can follow you if they want to follow along your journey.
Most of the interesting stuff for people who are watching this would probably be what I post on LinkedIn. And I will say, currently, I think I'm up to 8 or 9 different games for health groups that I'm either consulting with or advising. Just picked up another one literally yesterday that all sorts of interesting stuff just continues to amaze me. So, and encourage people to check in on that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Noah. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for being a game changer and for coming on Game Changers to play a game. And thank you, listener and watcher at home, for checking out this video. If you enjoyed it, please do drop a like, a comment, and subscribe to Digital Doc Games. See you next time.